everything I'm looking at here for sale, or
A lot of stuff is for sale.
Frank Fritz from the History Channel's reality series American Pickers has died.
it's in great condition, and what the seller is when Francis wound it up.
Something went wrong behind the scenes of American Pickers. For over a decade, American Pickers was unstoppable. Millions watched as Mike Wolfe, Frank Fritz, and Danielle Colby turned forgotten junk into history. But off camera, the story was very different. Friendships broke down. Health battles took a devastating toll. And one of the show's biggest stars would never return. So what really happened behind the success? Why did everything change? And where are the American Pickers cast in 2026? Join us as we uncover where they are now. Mike Wolfe. As the founder of the show, Mike Wolfe was picking long before American Pickers had a name or a camera crew. Growing up in Joliet, Illinois, raised by a single mother, he developed a habit that set him apart. Mike would always pull discarded objects out of alleys and yards, convinced they still held value. That instinct, seeing something unique where others saw scrap, became the foundation of his television career. Growing up, Mike turned that mindset into a full-time pursuit. He crisscrossed the Midwest, knocking on doors and uncovering items that reflected overlooked slices of American history. Although at the beginning, there was no template for what he was building. It was initially a means for Mike to hustle and do what he loved. The television breakthrough came slowly. Mike spent roughly 5 years pitching what would become American Pickers. During that period, he filmed real picking trips, the unscripted conversations, genuine negotiations, and the natural chemistry he shared with his longtime friend and partner, Frank Fritz. That footage became proof of concept and what he had always loved to do. When History Channel finally greenlit the show, it was no longer something to be experimented with. Premiering in 2010, American Pickers stood out for its authenticity. The show didn't start out as a staged drama, but simply two people traveling back roads, digging through barns, and uncovering forgotten artifacts was enough drama. The show moved at an incredible pace, and audiences responded immediately. Soon, the show became one of the network's highest-rated programs and reshaped expectations around reality television. Mike expanded beyond the screen. His retail brand, Antique Archaeology, turned into a physical extension of the show, with locations in Iowa and Nashville attracting fans and collectors. He also authored books and partnered with brands, positioning himself as more than a TV personality. He became a public advocate for preserving material culture. His trajectory, however, hasn't been without challenges. When he became popular, most of the solid relationships he had built from the beginning began to shake. He always had a lot to attend to and couldn't keep up. His marriage to his longtime wife, Jodie Faith, ended in 2021. His professional relationship with his friend, Frank Fritz, also deteriorated before Fritz's death in 2024, closing a defining chapter of the show. It didn't end there. In April 2025, the Nashville branch of Antique Archaeology shut its doors, signaling a contraction of its retail footprint. Later that year, Mike faced another personal crisis. In September 2025, he and his partner, Letitia Klein, were involved in a serious car accident caused by a drunk driver. Mike sustained minor injuries, but Letitia's recovery was prolonged and complex. It took a toll on him, and eventually, he couldn't function properly. However, he continued working. In February 2026, Mike launched History's Greatest Picks with Mike Wolfe. The series departs from the road trip format that defined his earlier work. Instead, it focuses on the historical and financial significance of specific artifacts, emphasizing their context over discovery. Mike serves as both host and executive producer. Whether this project replaces American Pickers or runs alongside it remains unresolved. What is clear is that Mike is recalibrating. His career has moved from instinct-driven exploration to deliberate curation. From scavenging alleys in Illinois to shaping how millions view everyday artifacts, Mike has been consistent. The next picker was a close friend of Mike. What were his roles then? And where is he now? Alive or dead? Frank Fritz. Frank Fritz, a good friend of Mike Wolfe, has always stayed consistent with him. Long before American Pickers existed, he was already doing the work, traveling back roads with Mike, searching for overlooked pieces of history. Their friendship started young, built around curiosity and a shared instinct for finding value where others saw none. Frank grew up in Davenport, Iowa, part of the Quad Cities region that shaped the tone of the show. When American Pickers premiered on the History Channel in 2010, the chemistry between the two leads didn't need to be scripted. It was lived in. On screen, Frank became a defining counterweight. With his dry humor and unpolished delivery, he brought an authenticity that anchored the series. Beyond his roles on television, Frank also maintained a shop in Savannah, Illinois. However, what viewers didn't always see was the strain behind his activeness. Frank lived for decades with Crohn's disease, a condition that can cause severe pain, fatigue, and unpredictable flare-ups. He acknowledged it publicly, but rarely centered it. Over more than a decade, Frank appeared in over 300 episodes, helping establish American Pickers as one of cable television's most recognizable formats. His skill was intuitive. He could enter a cluttered barn and quickly isolate items with historical or resale value, filtering out noise while preserving signals with minimal effort. His final episode aired in March 2020. The initial explanation was a hiatus for back surgery, which he had undergone to address chronic pain. What followed was an obstacle that gradually unfolded. The pandemic disrupted production, and Frank faced compounding personal challenges, from his recovery to moments of isolation and the end of a long-term relationship. In that period, he developed an opioid addiction, a reality that remained largely private at the time. When production resumed, the network required medical clearance and drug testing. However, Frank did not return to filming, and the History Channel moved forward without him. At that time, public discussions reduced the situation to a feud between Frank and Mike, but the underlying issues were more complex than a single dispute. In July 2022, Frank suffered a stroke caused by a blood clot. He had recently been involved in a motorcycle accident that resulted in a broken leg, a factor that can increase clotting risk during recovery. The stroke caused significant damage, leaving him partially paralyzed and in need of long-term care. From then on, his life shifted to rehabilitation and assisted living. Tragically, Frank died on September 30th, 2024, at age 60, from late sequela of cerebral infarction, an ischemic stroke that cuts off blood flow to the brain. In his final moments, the show later dedicated a season to his memory, acknowledging the role he played in shaping it. Before his death, he also requested no formal funeral, consistent with a life lived without excess. Despite the health scare and challenges, Frank Fritz's life on the show embodied his energy. Another picker lived an active life both on and off the screen. Let's find out who. Danielle Colby. Danielle Colby built a public identity out of contrast with her early life. Raised in Davenport, Iowa, in a strict Jehovah's Witness household, her early life was structured and restrained. This was far from the bold, expressive persona audiences would later associate with her. Before American Pickers, Danielle was already central to the operation. She worked alongside Mike Wolfe at Antique Archaeology, handling logistics, sourcing, and coordinating deals. She was the organizer behind the infrastructure that enabled picking trips. When the show premiered on the History Channel in 2010, that role shifted on camera. Danielle quickly stood out. She had sharp timing, a direct delivery, and a presence that cut through scenes without effort. Framed as the office manager, she expanded the role into something more dynamic. Although her appearances were brief, they were memorable. She was often anchoring episodes with humor and clarity. However, long before television, another influence had already reshaped her path. In 2004, Danielle attended a burlesque performance in Chicago that altered how she viewed expression and identity. The show's range offered a form of creative autonomy she hadn't seen before.
Captain Smith and Pocahontas had a very mad affair.
She entered that world soon after, performing under the stage name Danny Diesel, and eventually forming her own troupe, Burlesque Le Moustache. What looked like two separate careers, antique picking and burlesque, shared a common thread. Both involved recovering overlooked history. Danielle recognized that burlesque, like many of the artifacts featured on American Pickers, had been marginalized or dismissed. Costumes, posters, and photographs carried cultural weight, but were rarely preserved with intent. That insight led to her most deliberate project. In 2025, she opened the Ecdysiast Arts Museum in Davenport. The museum focuses on the history of burlesque, housing vintage costumes, archival imagery, and rare materials tracing the art form from the 19th century to the present. The same year, Danielle signaled a shift in her relationship with television. In December 2025, she publicly suggested that American Pickers had effectively run its course. The network later clarified that episodes were still airing into 2026, but her statement reflected a broader transition at the end. She was already investing in work that existed outside the show's structure. That transition followed a difficult period. In late 2024, Danielle canceled appearances, initially citing family health concerns. She later confirmed she had been dealing with her own medical issues, though she kept specifics private. 10 years later, Danielle now shares her life and work with her husband, Jeremy Shush, after being married twice before. She now divides her time between the United States and Puerto Rico. From coordinating deals behind the scenes to curating a museum dedicated to a sidelined art form, Danielle reflects the same instinct to recognize value before it is widely acknowledged. Danielle Colby was never confined to a single role, and she played an active role in it all. Now, we're moving to someone who has always done things a little differently from everyone else. Robbie Wolfe. Robbie Wolfe didn't enter American Pickers as an outsider. As the younger brother of Mike Wolfe, he grew up in the same environment as the founder, which shaped the show's core idea. He also had the instinct to search for overlooked objects and recognize their value before anyone else did. Long before the cameras arrived, Robbie was already learning the trade. He learned how to negotiate without pressure and to earn the trust of people reluctant to part with their possessions. His increased presence on the show followed Frank Fritz's stepping away from filming in 2020. That change from Frank forced the series to adjust. The original dynamic between Mike and Frank had anchored the format for over a decade. Without it, the show needed a different balance. Robbie joining the show was not a replication of what was lost, but simply a new energy to the show's flow. Where Mike operates with a measured, strategic approach, Robbie is more immediate. He reacts openly, shows excitement without restraint, and leans into the hunt's unpredictability. That difference reshaped the rhythm of episodes. The interactions feel less structured, closer to how picking actually unfolds off camera. Off-screen, Robbie maintains his own presence in the antiques world. He runs a shop in Iowa, separate from antique archaeology, which was Mike's shop but aligned in philosophy. His work is also consistent with sourcing, restoring, and reselling items that might otherwise be discarded. It reinforces that his role on television was a lifestyle he was actively living. That connection extends beyond the show. In 2025, Robbie attended the opening of the Ecdysiast Arts Museum, founded by Danielle Colby. His presence highlighted how the cast's individual paths still intersect. Some of the museum's pieces trace back to items he helped source, linking his work directly to a different form of historical preservation. As of 2026, Robbie remains a regular figure in ongoing episodes airing on the History Channel. While the long-term future of American Pickers is uncertain, his role within its current structure is stable. Alongside him, John Soleil, known to viewers as Jersey John, has become an important part of that transition. Unlike the original hosts, John entered as a specialist. His expertise in vintage motorcycles and restoration work gives him a defined function. His background in woodworking adds another layer, expanding his role beyond engines into craftsmanship. John also introduces a different regional perspective, coming from New Jersey rather than the Midwest. By 2026, he appeared regularly alongside Mike and Robbie, contributing technical insight during picks and restorations. Together, Robbie Wolfe and Jersey John helped to reshape the show and replicated the same energy Mike and Frank would have. From Robbie, whose energy was unmatched, next is the picker, whose one-time appearance left a lasting mark on the show. Dave Ort. Dave Ort never needed a seat in the van to become one of the most recognizable figures tied to American Pickers. His impact came from the few things he showed up for. While the show thrived on movement and endless miles, Dave represented the opposite. He was like a fixed location filled with layers of history. That location, known to fans as Rusty Nuts, the chaotic storage location, wasn't staged. It belonged to Dave Ort and his brother, and it became one of the most memorable picking locations on the show. Over decades, Dave built a dense collection of vintage signage, mechanical parts, and Americana, all stacked and buried. When Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz first visited, it quickly became clear this wasn't a one-off stop. Dave wasn't a typical seller, and his property wasn't a one-day pick. They returned multiple times over the years, building a relationship that extended beyond transactions. In the world of picking, repeat access signals trust. Dave allowed it, but always on his terms. That independence defined him. He didn't collect with resale in mind. Many of his items carried personal weight. They were pieces he had held onto for years, sometimes decades. Negotiations at Rusty Nuts didn't follow a clean arc. Deals stalled, shifted, or fell through entirely, and that unpredictability made the segments compelling. However, Dave's on-screen presence matched his approach. He wasn't performing for the camera. His delivery was often understated, sometimes resistant. Most of the time, his conversations unfolded slowly, without urgency. There was no rush to close a deal, no attempt to entertain. What came through instead was authenticity, the sense that viewers were watching real interactions, not constructed moments. Dave appeared in multiple seasons, but only in times when it was tied to Rusty Nuts. By 2026, Dave had largely stepped away from regular appearances. He never pursued a broader media presence since the last time he appeared, which was in 2021. His role remained tied to his identity as a collector. Public information about his current activities is limited, which aligns with his long-standing private nature. What remains is Rusty Nuts' lasting imprint on the show's legacy. From the activities of Dave Ort's Rusty Nuts, the focus shifts from the thrill of the hunt to the reserved presence behind the scenes. Who is she? Jodie Faith. Jodie Faith was never part of the core cast of American Pickers, but her story runs parallel to it. While the show focused on the road, barns, backyards, and deals, Jodie stayed behind. She was more focused on the operations behind the scenes. Many said it was a means for her to support her husband, while some noted she has always been part of the show regardless. Jodie and Mike Wolfe were together long before the series existed. Their relationship stretched back decades, built during years when picking was still informal. There were no cameras and no production schedules, just the two of them as husband and wife. When American Pickers premiered on the History Channel in 2010, it didn't just elevate Mike's career, it altered the structure of their daily life. The show's success was immediate and sustained. Filming schedules expanded, travel intensified, and the business grew beyond television into retail and branding. For Mike, that meant constant movement. For Jodie, it meant managing a life increasingly shaped by absence, shifting priorities, and the demands that come with a nationally recognized series. She made occasional appearances connected to the show's broader narrative, but she never leaned into visibility. Unlike others in the orbit of American Pickers, Jodie didn't build a public identity around it. Her focus remained personal. She centered on her family and maintained a sense of normalcy outside the show's reach. That distance wasn't incidental. It was consistent with how she approached the spotlight from the beginning. As the show expanded in the middle of 2010, that balance became harder to maintain. In June 2020, after nearly a decade of marriage and more than 20 years together, Jodie filed for divorce. The separation was finalized in 2021. The timing aligned with broader changes around the show, including shifts in its cast and direction, but the reasons were personal. Like much of their relationship, the split was handled privately. Since then, Jodie has remained largely out of public view. Verified details about her current work or daily life are limited, reflecting a deliberate choice rather than an absence of activity. She has not re-entered the show's orbit or positioned herself within its evolving narrative since then. As Mike moves forward with projects like History's Greatest Picks with Mike Wolfe, Jodie remains separate from that trajectory. Her story doesn't follow the show's arc or its cast. In a series built on uncovering what's been overlooked, Jodie Faith's role is subtle but essential. Do you think being a cast member on the show altered the lifestyle of some of them? Are there still more stories from the show's past, especially from the founder, that haven't been told? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.